How much should we pay for games? If you are like me, you pay attention to common things, and thanks to factors such as inflation, you notice that for the past couple of years, the price of a lot of things has gone up, with one big exception being the price of video games. Now I do realize that there is no general price set up for video games, as they come in all shapes and sizes and amount of detail you can pack into them. But if you truly think about it, most people will tell you that there is that $60 price tag for a video game, or at least when it comes to platforms such as PC. I am aware that the price for a console game is set up differently, but is the $60 price tag truly enough considering how much we can get out of a video game? Well, that is something which I want your feedback on, as this has been drilling a hole in the back of my mind for quite some time now.
Not your professional walkthrough channel presents.
So how did I come across this idea? Well, honestly, for the last year or so, I have been checking some Patreon pages for games that are being developed, and I have noticed something shocking. Certain developers have decided to keep their goals, or how many Patreons they have and how much they can earn on their sites, and based on the community supporting their ideas or games, I saw how much money they can earn per month. This has led me to the shocking discovery that certain developers or studios can rake up shockingly large amounts of money just during the game's development, but when the game is finished and fully released, the cost of the game, because it's still considered an indie title, will never go above the $25 mark. So let's say we would take a fictional developer X, we will give him 500 supporters, and he will be making $1,000 in monthly donations, and the game will take 2 years to be developed. This means that over the period of 24 months, the crowdfunding would provide the creator with $24,000. Let's say Patreon takes 20%, so that is equal to $4,800 out of the overall value, leaving the developer with $19,200. You might have to pay taxes because this is probably considered as an income, so depending on where you live and what is the tax rate, you will have to pay according to your state 20, 25 or even more percent. So let's say we go with the 20%, which would leave the person with $14,400 divided by 24 months, which comes out, wow, this actually worked out quite nicely, to exactly $600 per month into his pocket. Now, because a lot of developers might be solo content creators, meaning they are responsible for the graphics, the coding, maybe music, or maybe the money in their pocket actually gets further redistributed in case you do pay to a certain third party to provide you with art assets or whatever else you need for the game that you yourself cannot make. I noticed one specific developer working simultaneously on 3 titles, where each 2 months as an update for one of the games is released, and he keeps rotating them so he can, of course, based on the overall feedback of his supporters, prioritize his or her projects. But it also even further reinforces the question as to how much should we be paying for the games, as he did an extremely smart thing by separating the 3 games into separate Patreon subscriptions, as this way he is pulling in, if we would remove the 20% for Patreon and 20% for taxes, a shocking amount of over $5,000. And that seems like quite the payday, but you have to consider the additional cost and not just the cost of living that he would have to spend to make people either aware of your games or pay for the art, music, etc. And the more you start to follow this logic, the further down the rabbit hole you go. And so when I just think about these small developers and how much money they can get over a certain period of time and how much funds they can accumulate, what then happens with like a big AAA title developer? Well, if you really think about it, and you would consider your options from Activision Blizzard to Bethesda or EA, maybe Ubisoft or whoever you like, you will realize that the price which you pay is set to $60. And the overall cash which needs to be redistributed is so much more complex. I mean, it's almost impossible to be put into a single equation such as with the indie developer, just due to how complex or large the companies can be, or how they can have multiple studios working simultaneously on multiple games, so that they can keep releasing the annual cancer that is Call of Duty, Black Ops, or what do they call it these days. Because if you think of it, the larger studios usually go to these large conventions, or at least before the virus of unmentioned origins was released for a public alpha testing, is followed by a couple of years of silence, because games still take a crap ton of time to be developed, and then you have to consider your marketing budget for advertising for the upcoming release. Think of EA's Anthem or CD Projekt Red's Cyber Not So Punk 2077. There are millions spent on advertising so that the certain portion of a marketplace can become aware that, hey, there will be this game released, eventually. And well then, the games are released, and as of late, we all know in what horrible status they did manage to come out. This is why I stopped buying games when they are freshly released, and I have never pre-purchased a game, and most likely will never even do so, because if you think maybe 10 years ago, or even further back, at least back then, I had a guarantee that if I would buy something for $60, it would work, and I would get the full game, and not have to wait for some season pass or other bullshit. So question how much should we pay for a video game I believe is relevant, and I would love to hear your opinion. As for example, me personally, I buy games especially for the purpose of my channel during Steam sales, with maybe few exceptions throughout the year. So I have already devalued the game by waiting for some moment when I can get 15 to 30% off, because I feel that paying $60 might be way too much. And I know what you are thinking, but Max, that sounds like the most hypocritical thing ever, and I'm well aware of it. But I do it because as a consumer and as a person who is passionate about experiencing these beautiful stories, I have absolutely no guarantee that if I buy the new AAA title, it will be not released as a complete mess. So what should be the price which we should pay in today's economy, where people are willing to pay more than $50,000 for an NFT of some gift so that they can claim they own it? Should it be 75, 80, or even 100? I'm asking this as a person who is on a monthly income, and so if I spend, let's say, if I would divide my income into 10 portions and 6 portions out of that are just for monthly cost living, mortgage, and all this other stuff, I have only a small portion to be left to create as a reserve. So I really want to make sure that if I will be spending money for a game, the price should be representing of a quality you are getting. So I would not have an issue, let's say, paying $100 for a game like Red Dead Redemption or something, but at least I would need to have some sort of guarantee that the quality would be matched by the amount of money I would pay. And so I think this is a question we all should be asking ourselves, as today putting a value on someone's hard work is becoming more and more difficult, as we have people who work their asses off in the industry. They join these larger companies or teams in order to be guaranteed steady job, but then they have to suffer through sexual harassment like in case of Activision Blizzard, or horrible crunches where they spend 15 till 17 hours a day for a couple of months before the release of a game, and then based on the reviews or reactions of people who have been doing this job of reviewing games for far longer than I have, they can either celebrate or be worried because their jobs are dependent on the overall result of the game's performance on market. I mean, there has been so many cases also of game developers using freelance workforce in these past few years because of how easy it is to terminate a contract or not give them any benefits or bonuses. So there are lots of great areas in the industry, and this is why I think the price of a video game, well, not just the video game, should go up. I genuinely believe that people should be rewarded far more for their hard work. So with that in mind, not everyone is capable of creating video games. I can tell you I have tried to utilize the free version of RPG Maker many times, yet I have failed because I simply lack that one gear in my head that would allow me to be good at writing code. And therefore putting together some vision or an idea, if I would have one, would probably never happen. I mean, $60, what is that to you? For me specifically, it's my monthly cost of internet and electric bill combined. And if I do not pay those, well, I cannot really log on to Steam account and enjoy these games, which I would love to play. But what other business plans could we theoretically try for game developers? I have been thinking, as there are plenty of game developers, but they all follow different blueprints. We have developers such as Wargaming, where they handle free-to-play games. However, and I actually do want to make a video of how much money would they annually want you to spend, but that's gonna take me some time. So that's another thing, because for example, I do not like World of Warplanes or World of Tanks. I prefer War Thunder, but I do not play the game as of late. But when I take a look at, for example, World of Warships, and all year long, they are running all these amazing campaigns and promotions like Kong vs. Godzilla, Transformers, Warhammer 40,000, and so many more, I actually wonder how much is it that they are asking for while you are just trying to have fun sinking someone's battleship. So is this the potential for future of gaming, where you get the game for free based on how popular it becomes or how much of a advertisement the community can do on your behalf, so you do not have to pay Arnold Schwarzenegger to be in your commercial for World of Tanks? Or should we take a look at another developer, like for example Blizzard, before they became, well, whatever the hell they are today? Think of how long Blizzard has been kept alive and released barely any new IP just thanks to the monthly subscription model for World of Warcraft. $20 or less per month. Honestly, I just simply did not like the idea that I would have to pay $60 for original game and then pay $20 each month to keep playing. And with each expansion price at around $60 followed by $20 for monthly subscription, I mean, no wonder they were able to afford to release StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty on 27th of July 2010, Heart of Swarm on March 2013, and Legacy of Void in November of 2015. I mean, I got all three parts of the game, but holy crap was I confused when I really did not see that much of a change in just about anything. The engine was the same, the graphics did not really blow my mind when you would progress from Wings of Liberty to Heart of Swarm and to the last one. Yet I paid $60 for each installment because I was a student and I did not have a mortgage and other things to consider. But if they would try to pull this crap today, I would certainly not get the games. Do not get me wrong, the cinematics alone are worth the money. I mean, even if, let's hope it never happens, Blizzard Studio might end up shutting down its door one of these days, one thing will stand the test of time, and those will be the cinematics from Reign of Chaos, Frozen Throne, StarCraft, which makes you wonder what the fuck happened with the Warcraft movie. But you get my point. The subscription base allowed the studio to keep existing, but because their player base kept eventually decreasing, as after the original came out all the way back in 2004, The only games which you saw release in the meantime were StarCraft 2, the other one where they turn all the female characters into porn, or Diablo 3 where for a class of Necromancer 2 years after the initial game's release, you had to pay additional $25 just to get the class of a Necromancer. So this is really something that became really bad business practice in my mind, because I felt that the studio became lazy, and now with Diablo 4 somewhere in the nearby future, they announced, what, 3 classes to be released at the game's initial launch? Seriously? Just 3 classes? I mean, I will get more value by playing the remastered version of Diablo 2. But I feel like maybe touching upon remasters is maybe a subject for an entirely different discussion video. Although, if we would take a look at Bethesda, for example, and how many times they have released Skyrim, I mean, people just kept buying the same shit over and over again for a price of a full AAA title, which would make you wonder, maybe because Bethesda does own ID Software, they can use a different engine for Starfield or any of the other future titles with 16 times the detail. Is this another potential blueprint of how to keep the company afloat? I mean, Activision tried this with Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, but if you think I will pay $60 for a game I already do own, you are probably eating those Tide capsules or something, because I simply refuse. So should we be paying more, but should we be guaranteed that we get a fully released game? Should we not be paying, but be bombarded by microtransactions? Should we be paying the current amount, but be bombarded by microtransaction? Should the old games be re-released and we are gonna get the same shit over and over again, expecting things to improve? Paying for a game you already own, which is just a couple of years old because it was remastered, so capitalizing on the fan base of an already existing IP is seriously, I mean, Disney has been doing nothing but remaking all animated movies into real-life adaptations, and boy do they suck. But okay, if it works for movies, maybe it can work for video games. I mean, who is not worried about the new Uncharted movie, or is that just me? Then there is the potential of paying in subscription-based system, allowing the developer to keep a part of a studio focused on perfecting the game, while the rest of the team can focus on developing new IPs. But would that not create burnout by people either being stuck on the free-to-play or subscription-based IP due to lack of changes or maybe unhappiness? And then the rest of the staff would have to deal with the crunches, while a small portion of the studio would just keep doing the bare minimum because adding new features to a PvP style game would make people upset and potentially affect the amount of cash flowing into the company. I mean, you can think about a lot of updates if you would consider any of the League of Legends, or if you would consider World of Tanks or World of Warships. Once carriers have been implemented, once submarines have been implemented, people are just unhappy to see certain things change because it creates this different situation. But is it good? Is it bad? Should it be rewarded? Should it not? It's hard to tell. The other option which we have is probably going public on a trade market and being forced to release a game in a bad status before being finished, due to the pressure of the investors. So let's say, for example, CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077. It is a really difficult question on which I would love to know your opinion, as a person with different age or different priorities might not look at the price of a video game and maybe overthink it as much as I am. I certainly know my uncle, for example, did not overthink buying his underage son GTA 5 and then wondering why he acted all weird because he was playing as Trevor. I certainly do believe that people should be paid more for the hard work that they do on these games, and their passion can be seen, but also I can understand why many developers would rather leave big studios and set up their own indie projects, allowing them to return back to the passion of creating amazing and captivating stories while being crowdfunded rather than having to crunch for months because of a deadline for the new Assassin's Creed, which has a release date before Christmas, so that some executive will have his bonus and your parents or someone relative will be able to participate in a Mordo simulator while trying to get the latest Halo in their local shop during Black Friday. It is really challenging question because the older I get, the more I start to look at things from a different point of view, and even when I look at Steam pages, or hell, if there is not another lockdown and I can actually go physically to a chain of stores which are selling video games or Pokemon cards or Funko Pops or whatever they sell, I will already see there these signs that are starting to show up. Let's take for example Assassin's Creed. I know it's not the latest one, but still, there was a Steam sale and I noticed this. There is the standard version for 60, then there is the deluxe version for 75, the gold edition for 100, or because let's say you have received inheritance from some relative who will no longer be able to come and visit because of what is happening outside, the ultimate edition for 115. This can be already the subtle screen for help, as like I said, I have not seen standard edition of a game go for higher price than 60. But if you just think about that simple Patreon example and how much more complicated things become if you work for any of the larger studios and how they can really suffer like CD Projekt Red did with their latest release, if they would not have alternative sources of income, such as Good Old Games, which ever since Cyberpunk flopped has been spamming my email with discount codes for all sorts of games, or that Witcher game called Gwent. You can already see how once beloved developer can put it all out on a line and bring a brand new IP but fail. And that fail I feel like will affect the other developers like Activision and Ubisoft, and they will just stick to releasing games as no longer a platform to tell an amazing story, but a repackaged product sold to a certain portion of the market, allowing them to keep afloat before the next Anno or Far Cry or whatever game is released by the studio. Or should they maybe consider releasing a game and rely on the fact that if you want the full experience, you'll need to put up with season passes? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm entirely grateful to the people who are working hard on bringing us these games, and shockingly, for such a negative and critical asshole which I can be, trust me, you have not seen the worst of me yet, I keep looking for positives in games if I decide to buy them, but I also am no longer willing to spend money on another Far Cry or Call of Duty, because same as Captain Price, these franchises will not die as long as people keep buying them, and this will not change the current status of the gaming industry. It will not be shifting towards better future. Maybe it will be shifting towards worse future. I mean, there are plenty of people like me that will probably just say, fuck it, I will stop buying these games and spend another 1000 hours in Stardew Valley, or I will just look up older games which I know will provide me with the sense of satisfaction, and I know that they have been created at a certain time where the focus was on storytelling and not how much money you can earn from the player base. So let me know, how much would you be willing to pay for a game? Is it 60? Is it 100? I certainly do not expect someone to sell a kidney for the pleasure of playing new FIFA 2023 or, well, what's the number now? But I'm quite sure some of you might have noticed something similar, and therefore were wondering if by paying more, you would provide better working conditions for the people responsible for the games, but also improve the overall conditions in which the games do come out, or if you are actually worried that the exact opposite would happen, as you would pay more, but the games or the companies would follow the same practice and they would release much more expensive, less finished product as they tend to do today. Think about it and let me know. Even if you play just 5 games constantly because you either do not have the budget or the system to support the brand new demanding titles, or the time because you are a parent or you come home tired from work, so you simply don't want to put up with more bullshit from some toxic community of a game you once loved. Or if you are spending already too much money on video games, but eventually you realize that you never really finish any of them because the market is so oversaturated and you want to keep experiencing these stories over and over again. I will be really interested about your overall feedback, as I do have some additional ideas for discussion videos, and of course, as per usual, if you do have topics which you feel would be interesting to discuss, feel free to leave them in the comment section. But most of all, stay safe out there, make sure to subscribe, and whatever game you decide to go play after, or hell even during while you were listening to my sexy soothing voice, make sure to have fun while you do so, and let me know what games you are most looking forward to being released in 2022. My name is Max. It was fun to make one of these discussion videos after such a long time here on the channel. And let me know what you think, and I will be seeing you in the comments or at the next upload. Thank you for watching, everyone, and bye-bye in the meantime.